How's it going, everyone? It's Carpo here. I want to talk for a minute about hate. Something I don't even want to talk about. Not necessarily just hate, but rather hate speech. I suppose I should give a little background of why. First off, I'm not going to title this video something like "Keck the Frog" or "Fuck the alt-right" or something like that, which would of course bring in a whole bunch of people looking to argue and to fight, which is fine. To each his own. Of all the videos I make, I rarely talk about these things. The chaos of what's going on in the world of the minds of the individuals who form these stupid groups, like the Pepe the Frog or Kekistan, this whole thing. Honestly, I've completely avoided it. I don't want anything to do with people who don't even understand, what they represent. Because I went back and I looked into exactly this whole roots of this Pepe thing, and basically it's a giant trolling campaign, if you will. It's a way for, and many of the people who support this, this Kek or Pepe logo, of course they'll give you 1,000 reasons why, you're an idiot and that they know what's best for America or whatever it might be. It just doesn't matter. It's not worth my time anymore. And I guess that's what I'm here to really talk about, is like, I've been on some threads, I've watched some videos with some just toxic threads and comment sections, coming from both sides, not just the alt-right extremists, but the extreme SJW people who, they just want to fight anybody who may be opposed to them. It's a toxic place to be on some of these threads, some of these websites, and many of the YouTube channels. And I just prefer to avoid them altogether. But it's just, it's so sad that, these scared little white boys take on this Kek as their mascot, not because they really stand for anything racial, or because they care about a white America, or because white nationalism is just pathetic. But it's not just that. It's more of the lines of, here's a kid who may not fit in anywhere, and so he'll decide to join a hate group because it makes him feel good to see the way that people react. This way, when somebody puts him down, he can call you a cuck or something. And generally, fuck them all. I mean, I've discussed this so many times with people who call themselves alt-right, or, those who try to defend. They'll even, basically what it's done is it's glorifying a new religion, the religion of ignorance. And in a world where we have to learn to do things differently. We have to learn how to move into the future in a more constructive manner. Because if we're fighting among ourselves, then we're merely sheep for the slaughter for those who actually have the power and those who really have money as their god. Because your enemy is not the Mexican who's working in the fields. Your enemy is not, the black guy that you got mad at, so you decided that all black men suck, or that you believe that poor people are taking away from our system, and therefore our government, all of our money and taxes are going for these poor people who don't work hard and don't even want to work. When you really look at the numbers, when you really look at where the problems are, it's not really in the resources as much as our ignorant mismanagement of our resources. This goes for money, I should say, the things we buy with money, rather, money being an inanimate object, but it is energy and flow, if you will. But oil, paper, wood, the big industries that, multi-million or multi-billion-dollar companies who just want, for them, their god is money. For others, the job is to, or for those, especially the larger companies, is to convince the people why, we want them why we want, this idea of trickle-down economy, which is just the wool pulled over the people's eyes. The idea that if we give more money to the companies and more tax breaks to these companies, then somehow that's going to help the little guy. It's never worked, and it's never been shown to work. But, I live in the state of Washington. We have the highest minimum wage in the nation at $9-something an hour. And I believe in Seattle it's $15 an hour. And that seems absurd to others, you know, and so many companies will say, oh, well, that would run your business into the ground. But it doesn't. Because when the people have more money, more resources as individuals, they contribute more to their society. They contribute more to their local economy. Less sick days, you know, more time and more money to spend on things. It's, the statistics speak for themselves, you know, but it just gets me thinking about the people who are really not doing very well, the people who are really suffering in life, and how when you're really broke, and you really feel outcast, and you really feel like nobody gives a damn, sometimes the easiest thing to do is join a group of other people who are just as frustrated and angry as you are. And this is what a lot of folks do when they join these hate groups, if you will. I mean, I don't understand how a person could join a group where they're only real... I'll give you an example, okay, because I won't go any further on this whole cuck thing, because, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the alt-right are just a bunch of morons, with a few people in there who have some good ideas all twisted up. I mean, not that I totally dismiss everything that they say. I mean, sure, the government has issues. Yes, some of the extreme liberals are a bunch of wusses, and they take things too far and stand up for things where other people should be standing up for themselves, and it's a very complex issue that has many angles. But overall, I disagree with their assessment that this is a white nation, you know, that idea. But it doesn't really matter. Even the fact that I've got this far in the video, I was just thinking about turning it off and not even making it, because what's the point? You're either preaching to the choir, where people go, oh yeah, fuck those guys, or you're upsetting someone who just wants to argue about why this nation was founded on white people. And I understand that people's minds, we all have our own versions of reality, and we all have our own versions of what we think is actually going on in the world. But the more I educate myself on world issues, on history, on other countries and archetypes, allegories and stories and religions, the more I see that things are much more complicated than we could ever give credit. And I think that the more that a person does research into everything in life, the more learned a person be, the less life seems a conflict to them. Now, maybe this is just my personal experience. I find that by learning more, rather than becoming more and more confused with the bigger picture, I can put things into perspective. You know, such as if somebody upsets me, my instant reaction isn't to find something to pick on. Well, are they a different color? Are they a different gender? Oh, do they live in a different state or a different country? How can I separate myself from this other human and make them look like the bad guy? And when in fact both parties may have very similar interests, you know, and they're so overly focused on the couple of aspects that we don't agree on. Now, our population's doubled in my lifetime on this planet. It's an absolutely amazing, amazing growth in population. We are facing a future where if we can't get along with one another, if we can't at least make the attempt to understand one another, we're going to fail as a species. We're going to end up digging our own graves, and that's what we've been doing for quite some time now. Now, I'm not a doomer. I definitely don't believe that we're heading that direction. I believe that we are actually growing as a species, as a society anyway. I think that we're growing more tolerant and more understanding overall because, you know, murder and crime rates are generally in decline. Human life expectancy is raising. Now, of course, this is all going to hit a ceiling where there's a point where it, you know, it has to get worse before it gets better. The thing is, we've lived passively for too long, especially in America. You know, the white picket fence and the two-car garage, and you know, don't mind this war and don't mind that war, just live your life. And what it's done is it's built resentment. You know, parents who raised their kids during, say, the 80s, during the Cold War, where it was all about, even, you know, 60s through the 70s, you know, are you a Russian? You know, it was all about the fear of the Russians. And then look at where we're at today. We've got people saying, oh, well, it doesn't really matter if our own government colluded, even if they did talk with Russia. Well, Russia's, you know, just another country. And the excuses that we make for the things that leaders couldn't get away with in the past, but more than that, that we as a society are changing, and we realize it's not about saying, oh, we should be against Russia. It's about saying, yeah, maybe it's not that big of a deal overall that, you know, somebody is making connections with other countries, like things like these partnerships and these, like the TPP. People will say, oh, yeah, we need to get away from all these partnerships. We need America first, you know, we need to get stronger. But the problem is that America didn't get strong on its own. America got strong by sucking resources from either slave labor or from migrant labor or from other countries. And it's a fact. We can't look at this country and say we built all of this as white guys. It doesn't work that way. It's not realistic. But people have a hard enough time associating with even their neighbor, even if they're the same color, even if they're the same religion. They will find, oh, you're a Christian. Oh, but you believe that Jesus is to be celebrated on Saturday instead of Sunday? What? You know? So I guess that the message I want to get across here is that we need to stop looking at things so shallow. Looking at other people and making assumptions about what they think and who they are just based on one comment they said. But we also, we need to confront hatred and hate speech where we see it. Not tell people they can't say something, because my belief is that this is why we got ourselves into the trouble. This is how these alt-right groups got power, is because of the extreme modern liberalism, which has basically said, don't say anything bad, don't call me any names, oh, I want my safe space. And I cringe, because I totally agree. Like, somebody the other day said, you know, what do you think of Jordan Peterson? And I'm like, somebody asked me that last year, and so I spent hours listening to him. I thought the guy's smart, he's got a lot to say. He's got a lot of wisdom about the world, but he's caught up in his own personal plight against his students who rebelled against him because he rebelled against their safe spaces and this new law in Canada about, you know, hate speech, basically calling someone a name. So I agree with certain aspects of what he believes, but at the same time, I think we take it too far. Like, I guess what I'm saying is that I see the little angles and why people in the alt-right get frustrated. I see the things that these extreme lefties do that makes people want to just cringe and say, you know, you guys are destroying our country. It goes both ways. Both ends are completely just, you know, we're all to blame. Because anytime you are on one extreme or the other, there's something wrong. Anytime we take one side, when it's a 50-50 split, we have to realize that the other half isn't just dumb. They're not just stupid people that are unaware. It's just much more rich and complex than we could possibly imagine, the thoughts that go on in our minds and the reasons that we have for the things we do. I've had dozens of conversations with people who originally attacked me for one point or another, and rather than fighting them, having a discussion and saying, well, why do you think that? And, well, this is why I think this. And I've had my mind changed. And, you know, that's not what it's about. It's not about changing minds. The idea of an argument, you know, the Aristotelian argument, if you will, as a human, to me, is to argue to get to the bottom of the truth, so both of you can walk away better equipped to deal with a future discussion of the same sort and not get caught up in the same shortcomings. So, if we can look at each other and respect each other and say we're different, but we can still get along, then we're doing okay. I mean, this is what politics has been in this country for a long time in the U.S. You know, liberals and conservatives, you know, Democrats and conservatives, they might fight, but they can sit down and shake hands and talk about things. Now we have a guy in the office who really doesn't stand for either side or even care. He's, you know, he's just trying to make himself look good, and that's one of the scariest things. You know, it's not Trump's fault. It's a reflection on the people who are in this country who thought that that's what we needed. You know, we've been so suckered into thinking, oh, this person's famous and he's rich, so he must be a good leader. I mean, sometimes you just want to bury your head in the sand. You know, looking around at all the hostility out there from all sides makes you just want to withdraw, but we can't. We have to stand strong, and we have to get involved in these things. So like I said at the beginning, I tend to avoid those discussions. I tend to avoid those videos, those blogs. I won't even get involved. But if I see somebody saying something to someone that I know is wrong, I'll speak up instantly. The difference is that I don't go out looking for an argument. I let them come to me. You know, I don't go out seeking to tear someone's idea down. And if I do, it's not about me or them. It's always about getting to the truth for others who see it. Sometimes if I'll argue with somebody on a YouTube comment section, you know, they'll say, oh, you just want to win. I'm saying, no, it's not about winning. It's about putting the facts down so other people who read this thread, you know, don't fall into the same traps that we all do. Because ultimately we forget that we're just hairless apes wearing clothing, and we really don't know as much as we think we know. We're so caught up in our technology that we forget that we don't even, this isn't who we are. It's not where we came from. You know, we have millions of years of evolution behind us, and all of a sudden in the last 20 years we're these digital creatures. And everything changes so fast. So all I can hope for is that as we raise our children into the future generations, that we teach them the most important thing, which is tolerance and understanding. But at the same time, never let them believe that you just have to put up with other people's crap. Because tolerance doesn't mean you just submissive. Tolerance means you analyze and understand the reasons for things, but you can still be willing to speak up against the things that you see wrong. Which is why I can say that, you know, the alt-right movement is garbage, and I'll stand by that because that's how I feel. Like I said, I may agree with some points of individuals, but a movement as a whole is nothing. It goes nowhere. Each person has their own viewpoint of what that is. For some, it's just a mild idea of, well, I lost my job and there's a lot of Mexicans in my town, so therefore I'm going to join this group because, you know, the Mexicans are taking our jobs. Or there's another guy who's like, yeah, I just want to go out and shoot people. Or, you know, there's extremes for both ends, so we can't generalize any group of people, and that includes the liberal side too, you know. So there's my political video for the year, if you will. So I try to avoid those, but you know, it's just frustrating to see the hate speech out there, and it's easy to gloss over it, but don't let yourself get frustrated by it. But be aware that things are never as simple as they originally come across. Nothing's black and white. Many things have very gray areas. So, such is life. Talk to y'all later. Have a good one.